getting good flow through there. So my idle circuit's clean. Take your needle, wipe it off real good, dry it off, reinsert it. I love that. The carburetor cleaner loves to eat the paint off these Craftsman screwdrivers. So don't put it in carburetor cleaner. So I'll seat it in lightly, and then I will put it back to where it was. It was 3.5 turns out, so half, 1, half, 2, 2.5, 3.5. Like I said, yours 3.5, 11, and 5. Yours should not be that much. Generally, it's only about 1.5 turns out, and I'm sure I'm gonna have to adjust that one in when it's in. Make sure it's clean. If you have the bowl with a little detent plunger that allows you to drain gas, generally those things are notorious for leaking. The easiest thing to do is, if you never use it, is actually just pull that off, and if you actually use some JB Weld, dry this off, make sure it's nice and clean and greased. You can put some JB Weld or a gasoline epoxy, almost any epoxy that those 2-part epoxies that you mix are gasoline resistant, and you can put it right over there, seal it up for good. Now let's clean the main jet. This is the main jet of an older style carburetor with an adjustable needle that adjusts the flow to it. If you have a newer style, you'll have like this with a fixed jet. Same thing. There's two holes right there, and then usually 1 or 2 holes right above the threads in the side, and then a hole down through the middle that you'll need to make sure all those passages are clean. This old style jet, you can do the same thing with determining where it was located. Put a wrench on it, and straight up and down, I'm going to see how many turns it takes to get in. Half, 1 turn. So that was 1 turn out. So I'm going to screw it all the way out. Same thing, there is an O-ring, a little brass washer. If your carburetor's leaking from the bottom in the bowl, generally these old ones, it's either 2 things. It's this seal right here, or it's that little rubber O-ring. So first we're going to clean out this. Spray through it. You notice there's little holes on the side. Take my piece of copper wire. There's always a small little pinhole right at the top of your threads, whether it's a fixed jet or regular jet. And it always goes on. If you're not looking for it, you won't notice it generally. There we go. But the reason that Tecumseh carburetors usually fail is because that little teeny hole right there sits right at the bottom of the carburetor, and that's the first thing to get gummed up. All the gum or the water sits right in there. Tip of my needle. Scrub it clean. Insert it. I want to spray down. I just barely got it inserted. Just making sure that when I spray down, it's coming out there. And then when I spray through here, to the bottom hole, same thing. I'll make sure it all goes up. Spray through that little teeny hole. A little more difficult. we go. Sprays out the top of the hole good. Let's reset this back to where it was. Okay. It was just one turn. Put it straight up and down. Half. One turn. And that'll give us a good starting point. Generally, if you've messed them all up, the rule of thumb is generally 1.5 turns out for this, 1.5 turns out for your main jet. I have a philosophy on the seat. If it doesn't leak, don't fix it. The easiest way to remove the seat is to take a wood screw, coarse thread screw, and insert it down in, lightly turn it, pull out the seat. It is a little white or red. Newer, usually a lot of replacement ones are red, at least the ones I buy. That's a little red O-ring thing. One side you'll notice has a groove when you get it, because they don't tell you this, but one side has a groove in it. The other side is flat or has little markings on it. The side that is flat goes up. The side with the groove in it goes down into the carburetor. Do it backwards and it's almost sure to leak. I did, and then test your float. I did already have gas in here, so the float was in gas. The way you test your float is to make sure there's no fuel in it, that it doesn't rattle or jiggle or anything else, and also that it didn't have water in it and froze and smashed it. Take your float needle and off the tip. If it was flooding and leaking, gas was rushing out, then this was leaking. Reattach the needle with the little clip, just like so. Insert it back in. Take the float rod, insert that back in. For general purposes of where to set this, the float height is just level. Just the weight of the float itself, it should set level with the body of the carburetor. The way you adjust it, if you have to, is there's a little tab on top of the needle that you bend out or bend in. The way you test whether or not your float is going to leak is you lift up, you put your mouth on here, you blow, and then you just drop the float. The weight of the float itself should stop all. Even the slightest little hiss should stop every bit of air from going in. Lift it up, blow, drop it down, make sure it stops. If you get even a little bit of a hiss through there, it's going to leak. Take your seal, whether it's new or old, reinsert it. Take the bowl. You'll notice there's a shallower spot that goes on this side because the deeper spot allows for the float to fall a little bit deeper. So, just like that. Take your main jet / needle, snug it up. Not overly tight because this is all aluminum and brass, and make sure everything functions good.